You're listening to The Roots, a podcast from Minnesota AMA District 23 ARMCA. I'm your host, Jackie Reese. Let's dive deeper into what makes our district so great. This podcast was prepared by an independent contractor and may not be the views of the Board of Directors of District 23 ARMCA or any of their sponsors or affiliates. Hey everybody, before we get started with episode 26 of The Roots with Rex Greenwald, I just wanted to say thank you to Fly Racing, who is our title sponsor of District 23 ARMCA this year. Our Flybucks application is now open on the website, where you can apply to be awarded $300 in Flybucks, and that works just like cash with Fly Racing. So send us your best application. We want thorough, thoughtful explanations, and hopefully you'll get a new set of gear out of the deal as a thank you for being a District 23 ARMCA member. Welcome everybody to episode 26 of The Roots. We are here with Rex Greenwald, now chairman of District 23 ARMCA here in 2022. Rex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, Jackie.
Awesome. Well, as in the intro here, you are now chairman of District 23 ARMCA. Why did you want to take on that position?
Well, as most people know, my father was one of the founding members of the district. And over the years, I've been very involved with putting events on with our club, the Norsemen Motorcycle Club, including the Cambridge motocross track that most people know. A lot of people started at the Cambridge motocross track. And I've rode off-road. I rode many thousands of miles with my father. And I was very involved at the club level and the promoting level, and he was more involved with the district level. And I was the president of the Norsemen for, 20 some years. I'm putting events on. And when he passed away, I just told the club, I said, it might be time for me to be a little more involved in my dad's passion, which was the district and overall motorcycling for the state of Minnesota. So I went back into becoming one of the points keepers. I had been a points keeper way back in the 80s. And points keeping and repping is way different than it was then, because we did it by hand. We actually had to do the points keeping. And so I did. And then Mike Quinn has been the chairman for over 20 years, did a fantastic job. Mike and I have been personal friends for many years. And we just kind of were talking. And I said, well, Mike, when you're kind of ready, I said, on your time frame. And we kind of did that. And I was the vice chair for a year. And I learned a lot. He mentored me. He taught me a lot of stuff and all the ins and outs. And now I'm the chair. And we have a terrific district. And I'm excited about it. It gives me joy. It just does, to be part of this group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how could you not, right? I always say, I feel so lucky to know that this exists, and I wish that everybody knew that it did.
I know, you think about it way back, I think it was like in 1968 or whatever, when it was kind of forming. The district, we did motorcycle events in Minnesota in the 50s and 60s. We did enduros and hill climbs and flat tracks. Motocross didn't come to the United States until like the early 70s or even late 60s. And it didn't even come to Minnesota until like 71 or 72. And so that group of people were pretty organized putting those events on. And my dad was a young man. I mean, he was like 28, 29 years old. And with another core group of people, they said, hey, let's get a little more organized. Let's talk to the AMA. And he rode his bike with a friend all the way to Columbus, Ohio, and met with people and said, hey, we need to do something in Minnesota. And that's when they decided to call it District 23. And I don't know why, it might have been the 23rd district or something. Who knows what that reason is. It had already come in the East Coast, was a little more organized. So if you know my father at all, he, one of the evenings there, he went to the bar, and talking to the guys and the gals, the organizers, and he met up with the founder of the Pennsylvania district. And he said to him, hey, I'm doing this, and would you mind, mailing a copy of your bylaws and your foundational stuff to me? And they did, and that's just another little story about how we care about each other, and we want it for everybody. I don't care where you are. If you like motorcycles, you like people that like motorcycles. and that's the foundation of it. And then you think he would be so proud of where our district is. I mean, we run these meetings on the first Wednesday of the month in Bloomington, and there's always 40 plus or more people there. We have a pretty big overall board, all the points keepers and reps and all the people in different positions. And Mike did it, and I'm continuing it. We really care about the voices of everybody. We vote with consensus, and we vote for what's best for the sport. And that is why District 23 is one of the top districts in the entire country. I've heard that directly from the AMA because I'm also a congressman, off-road congressman for the AMA, or, on the committee for that. So that's why, and I just have a real passion. I recreate by riding motorcycles. If people want to know, I ride a 300 KTM two-stroke. I've been a four-stroke guy my whole life. I have a 250 four-stroke. I got a 350 four-stroke. I've got two 400 four-strokes. And I've got road bikes and play bikes. And I got a 1290 KTM off-road dual sport super adventure. And anybody who knows me, my family or whatever, thinks I'm a crazy nut with all this stuff, but I just love it. Mm-hmm. So that's who I am. Yeah. So as far as racing, I started off racing hill climbs and flat tracking in the 70s. I was young. They really didn't have youth classes back then. And then in 75 was my very first enduro. And from that time until my dad stopped riding, we rode we did ride every Minnesota enduro, but we rode the Wisconsin, Iowas, and in Northern Illinois enduros too. So I've ridden a lot of off-road and a lot of air scrambles. I was a pretty decent rider. I mean, I'm top 5 or better in some years. And then you got guys like Matt Stavish and these hot dogs that were pretty tough to beat, But I love them. I love all those guys. I mean, you compete with people, but you like them like brothers and sisters. I mean, you just do. You've been there. I mean, camping at night, you go up and you throw a tent up, and then you get around a campfire and you just have a good time and talk smart, talk fast. Mm-hmm. And that's all part of the gig too. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So as you're watching your dad go make these strides to get Minnesota involved with the AMA, how much of that did you really understand what was going on? I don't know exactly how old you were at the time, but you must have been young if your dad was 28.
Yeah.
So did you realize he was, going to have this big of an impact going forward on Minnesota's motorcycling as a whole?
I didn't. I knew he was special in the way people treated him. And I did go to district meetings, and I always kind of tagged along. A lot of times when we went to meetings, he rode his bike, so I was sitting behind him, and oh my God, cold 30, 40 degree weather nights coming home from meetings. I remember he had a good voice and people liked him. And I think his personality is still part of this district, about caring about others and caring about the sport of motorcycling. And it's not just racing. I mean, we have 3,700, what I call customers, that are the members of that. I'm one, you are too, Jackie. And, we put great races on. I mean, we've got a full schedule of motocrosses. We have 6 enduros and 9 hair scrambles and dual sports and off-roads, and then just fun rides. And we just have a whole bunch of people that care about motorcycling, and that personality and that what's in that room is what my goal is to keep going, and then put a little bit of my personality in there. I mean, I want D23 ARMCA, which is an Amateur Riders Motorcycle Association. I remember when Dad and them came up with that, because I kept saying, what the heck does that mean? Who's going to remember that? Well, guess what? It's still there, isn't it, Jackie? Mm-hmm. And last week I met with our lobbyist, Ray Vaughn. I wanted to meet with him and get a little history. Ray and I have known each other because I was in some of those initial things. He started working for the district way back in 1991, and we invest in him monthly. I want people to know that he watches every little piece of legislation that could hurt us in some way. Because not only do we want to keep riding areas open, we want to potentially get new riding areas. And he made it pretty clear that, you know, they know that people have motorcycles and people have ATVs. And, you know, that's how some of us recreate. You know, that doesn't mean that's all we do. You know, people hunt, they golf, fish, we do other stuff too. But one of the primary things that we do to recreate is we like to get behind a motorcycle and gas it. Nothing's better. Anybody who's listening to this gets it. Everything else in our life, we have a governor. We can't speed, we can't do. But man, you can get on your bike, and if you want to go WFO and hang on, you do. And I'm a little older now. I don't like doing that quite as much. Man, I'll tell you what, just gassing and hanging on, baby, and jumping and coming into corners hard, coming onto corners hard. It's a feeling you just don't get from anything else that I do and that we do. And that's the kind of stuff that turns us on. The physical part of it is another big thing. You know, you ride your bike and you're exhausted. You come back to the pits. I remember riding a national air scramble down in Millville many years ago, and it was like 3 hours plus a lap. I was on my bike for 3.5 hours of racing. I came back to the pit. I couldn't eat, drink, nothing. I was just so exhausted that I couldn't do a thing. And I'm not the only one that's probably come into that. But later on, I'm like, why do you put yourself through that? And then, gosh darn it, by Tuesday, Wednesday, you're ready for the next weekend. You know, of course, you can't walk for a couple of days. And by about Tuesday, your legs are so sore you can't even get up. But then once that heals up, you're ready to go. So.
Yeah, it's too much fun. So you mentioned our lobbyist, Ray, who's actually been working for the district longer than I've been alive, which is a very long time for him. But that brings me into something I wanted to talk to you about, which is your short-term and long-term goals for District 23.
Oh, thank you.
So Ray is definitely something we invest in, but what are some other aspects of the district that you're focusing on?
Well, of course, I want to see the current organic growth of membership. One of the big things, and we've started this, and you've been a big part of it, Jackie, along with other promotional and sponsor people. I want people that we need to be the voice of motorcycling. We need to, if someone buys a new bike and they say to the person, hey, where can I find some information about motorcycling? They go to our website where you can get good information. Not only good information, it's not going to, hopefully in the future with sponsors and with benefits, with discounts and other things that we're working on, that it literally, you'll join the district and you're like, wow, you know, I can get this, and, you know, this dealer gives discount or this, whatever. And you're thinking, this isn't even going to cost me anything to become a member. And I think we will grow that. You know, I go to the trail rides, and I went down to Talman or Mankato or any of those, and the parking area is filled with men and women who just like to ride motorcycles. And you walk around and literally 75% of them or more don't race. They don't ride motocross, or they don't whatever, but they're good riders, good people. And I want them to want to be part of our district. And, you know, frankly, I want them to be welcomed into wanting to try out a race. Let's say, you know, it's intimidating. It's intimidating to go to motocross, pick your class or whatever, and then you're in the, say, 30 plus class, and you get out there and you're like, wow, these people are pretty good, you know, or whatever. And, but we have, one of the reasons we are very successful, as an example, in the motocross world, we have like 54, 56 classes. And we did a study last year in comparison to the surrounding states, and we are way, almost double the classes of Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, or wherever. And so we try to fit people in a level where they can have fun, they can be competitive, and they can enjoy their experience. And we do that in the off-road world, in the hare scramble world, and in the enduro world. And I think that's going to help us really grow. And that's a big thing, communicating that to the mass motorcycle people. you think of how many motorcycles are in Minnesota. You know, we have 37 or 3,800 members probably this year. I mean, my God, there's got to be tens of thousands of people that have bikes, you know. And if they see us as a value that we're keeping motorcycle areas open, or we're creating new opportunities to go recreate, or we put on safe, you know, rule abiding events where there's referees and there's no rule breaking, and we got promoters and sponsors that are very, you know, good at what they do, and we do. It's just going to grow. I have a firm belief in that'll be, and we'll have a little bigger voice, and as we get a little bigger voice, and we'll have a little more, you know, pull at the legislative level or whatever, or to grow that part of our sport. I'm learning a lot of that being part of the AMA, you know, when I'm listening. I think there's like 15 or 16 of us on the board there for off-road, and that's Enduro Hare Scrambles Grand Prix. It's any kind of off-road event, you know, Hare and Hounds or that. And where I'm hearing what these people are talking about out east, where, you know, there's very limited riding areas. We can't let that happen in Minnesota. So, and we won't. And we'll do our best not to let that happen. Another thing is, and I've noticed in the last few years, is a lot of the tracks and the promoters are, you know, they're opening up for practices, you know, Wednesday night practice or Saturday practices where people can just go out and have a little fun with their kids, or go out with some buddies or whatever, and get out and get some laps in and find out, you know, really tune their bike in. And that's a big change too. So I encourage that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, that not everybody who rides wants to race. There's, you know, a very select group of people who are that competitive, that want to be a part of that aspect of it. But like you said, welcoming those recreational riders into our community as well, I think will be a really important change as we move forward with you as chairman.
You know, as we network with the ATV group, which is bigger than us, okay? They don't really have a lot of races, and they have a lot of voice, and they're really good at what they do. So we're learning from them on how they do stuff, melding it into what we do well. But always the bottom line is our support in our district are our competitors. I mean, let's face it, 90% of the people that are members of the district are racing, or they're in flat track or hill climb or whatever event. And I love them all. I went to several other venues and events this year, and I was just very, very proud to be part of the district, watching how the folks are putting these events on. And for the motocross people that might be listening to this, we have a great group of people they come to our district meetings, they talk things through as a group, they care about each other. I mean, we have a premier national motocross track in Minnesota, one of 12 in the country. And then, you know, that's made everybody better that puts on events here. It really has. And I look at it that way. In fact, John and I talk pretty regularly, and you know, I listen to what their needs, because he's got a voice. And you know, it's been a while since I've been part of the motocross world. I think we stopped doing motocrosses in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. And then we leased our track out up at Cambridge. And then we sold our track, I think it was in 17, to the Barnas and to that group. And it was one of my big goals. I didn't realize that when I was a kid that I'd be the one signing the papers, selling all the work that was put into that track. But it was really a big goal of mine personally that it stayed a motocross track. I mean, we could have sold it to a developer or whoever. It's a great piece of land. And I just wish them nothing but the best. And they've made some great improvements. And the track is doing well. It needed that. It needed the new blood that was going to put some enthusiasm into it and make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that brings me into another question I had for you. The Norsemen were selling that piece of property to the Barnas to, you know, continue it on as a motocross track. What was it like for you to be involved at the club level for all those years?
Why, you know, I encourage anybody, unless you're a promoter or someone that owns a track, if you're not, get involved. I mean, this is a volunteer organization from other than if you own the track or whatever. But even they get lots of volunteers. And the Norsemen is a premier motorcycle club in Minnesota. We have been for years. We were, one of the top clubs in the country for when we were doing motocross, and basically it's because we signed a lot of AMA members up, because we were doing a lot of races. But not only that, when we were in our heyday, we were not only putting motocrosses on, we were putting maybe a couple enduros on, a hare scramble. We were doing road events. There was times we were doing hill climbs. We always did flat track. I mean, the club started because of flat track, and we had a flat track right at the moto, track. The very first motocross track in Minnesota was in Cambridge. It was not where we're at, where the track was, but it was basically through the woods and a couple of lanes. It's not like now. I got a picture. I think I might have sent it to you, Jackie, to post it, where it was the starting line of the very first motocross, and it was a bungee cord, and there was guys like on a flat track bike and a DT Yamaha, and just a whole wide variety of different people and different bikes. And look at what it's become now. Just an awesome sport. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so obviously some of my best friends in the world are people that are part of the Norsemen and part of the motorcycle world. I mean, when you're working together in a volunteer situation and you're working hard, you're putting a lot of time and effort into it, you get to really know people. And good people. Really good people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of the best people around, right? They all, like you had mentioned prior, everyone cares about each other. Everybody cares about the sport, and I think that's what keeps people coming back. Every time I talk to somebody on this podcast or talk to people for the Member of the Week articles, they always say, I say, why do you keep coming back? And they say, oh, the friends that I made or the time I get to spend with my family. And I think that's, the best lesson to be learned here.
And I rode a ton. I rode and I still love to ride. I grab a bike, and we have a farm up in Mora or any of the Norseman events. And I'm at a point in my life now where I just like to ride. Riding a race is fine, but you can ride in enduro and hare scramble, ride in your own pace and all that. And we always talk so smart about that, but I hate getting passed by a 250C rider or something. You go from a certain, and you're like, yeah, I'm just having fun, and all of a sudden someone's yelling at you, get by, and you're like, oh, damn it, I used to ride that fast or whatever. So now it's more hanging on and please don't fall because it hurts so much and it's a lot harder to get up. So yeah, it's funny because when you're racing, when you're younger, you're just whatever you can get your leg over, you're racing. And then when you get my age where I can have all these different bikes and varieties, now I just can go have some fun. Mm-hmm. So, and I want other people to have that. I've seen it, and we all have. What happens generally is people race, and then they get to be at about 18, and then they might have college, or they're trying to find where they're going to be in life, and then they disappear for like 5 or 6 years because they're finding who they're going to be. And then all of a sudden they come back in their late 20s, early 30s. They're married, they might have kids, but they're just great riders and they're having a good time. And you look at the motocross world, off-road world, I mean, what do we have? 25 plus class, 30 plus class, 35 plus, 40 plus class, 50 plus. And it's amazing how good riders we have. And that's just life. You go from mom and dad helping you to you got to go buy your own bike. And you got to buy your own stuff and you got to get your own race. It's a little different, isn't it? That's when the real motivation comes out.
Yeah. Well, I've been in that exact situation too, right? It's, figuring out who you want to be and if you still want to do this and if you have the ability to make it happen. So I think, good lessons to be learned as you progress and get older in the sport. But coming back to mom and dad, I want to hear a little bit more about your mom, who was, I don't want to gloss over her here. She was very involved at the beginning of the district too.
Yeah.
Tell us about your mom.
My mom's the rock in our family. She went to every event with us, other than when we went some out-of-state stuff. It was just 3 or 4 people, guys would go, with camp or whatever. But in the motocross, when we're doing motocrosses, it was like my mom, Louisa Greenwald, and Karen Larson, Mike Larson's mom, and Jerry Mathwig, Al Mathwig's um, wife, and all three of those guys have passed. And we called them Checking Plus. I mean, they would when we were running motos, man, they were in that shack from 7 in the morning till 8:30 at night doing scoring. And then the next weekend they were running 2-3 checkpoints at an enduro, and the next weekend they might have been the finish line at air scramble. I mean, they were just awesome, awesome people. My mom was extremely supportive of my dad. My dad was like Fonzie, in the late 50s. He had his Harley CH and the leather, slick back hair and all that. I've got pictures. It's pretty cool. And my mom married him, and she knew who she was marrying. And she loved him very, very much. We all do. And nothing would have happened. I don't think there would be a district without my mom. As far as the organizational stuff, my dad was good at it, but she did so much in the background and gave him a lot of the credit. You're tearing me up, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I love my mom so much in many ways, but that part of it was pretty cool. I'm putting my glasses back on. Thanks, Jackie.
Well, we all love our moms, right? Like,
yeah, we do.
There's nothing quite like a mother's love in this world,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool that she was super supportive of your dad and the district, and still
And
is
my
to this
wife
day.
is the same way. I mean, we have two children. We have a son and a daughter, and both of them rode motorcycles, but it wasn't their passion. So we supported them in their own passions. Um, my daughter played basketball, and I coached many, many teams for her, and she was a very, very good, solid player and went to college. Our son was into music and theater and all that kind of stuff. He still rides, and he's a great rider and all that. But we support you. When you have kids someday, Jackie, and you want them to do it, and a lot of times they don't do exactly what you want to do. And so we very, very much supported them and what they do. And my wife, I mean, she's the brains, let me tell you. And our company, the company is Terex. Her name is Teresa. So she's the TER and I'm the Rex. That's why we named it that. So she got top billing and she deserves it. And she's super supportive, because in the 20s, because we had our kids so young. I mean, I was 21 when we had Nick. He's going to be 39 this year. And, I'm racing. Like, I remember in 1987 in particular, I rode 23 straight weekends, all the off-road events. I won the open class or whatever that year. It was great. I remember getting home in early October of the last event, and she was pregnant with our daughter Chelsea. And she said, "How'd you do?" I said, "I did great, man." And I looked at her like, "Big deal. I don't know. I got trophies. We all have trophies and awards. They don't mean anything. I mean, they're up in a box somewhere, whatever. But your wife and your family and your kids are the most important thing. And we now have 6 grandchildren. We had 5 girls. Our last one's a boy. So we got a boy. And my son-in-law he was the captain of his hockey team. And so they're playing hockey, and I go into those games and going to dance recitals and church events and soccer, which I can't stand watching, but I go anyway. T-ball was great, all that fun stuff. So that's my priorities, in life. So,
Absolutely.
and know who I am, I guess, Jackie. Yeah.
So coming back to you and your motorcycling, what's something that you're looking forward to this summer, maybe for yourself riding or for the district as a whole?
Well, the district, I'm excited because we have a full schedule of events. It doesn't matter what discipline you're doing. Our flat track world is doing terrific. We have great leaders and organizers. We've grown that in the last few years. Hill climb, people don't realize, I mean, like almost 40 or 50% of the national champion amateurs are out of Minnesota, where we have a great hill climb contingent. The motocross world, let's face it, we just top notch. the events we put on. We have 6 enduros, 2 of which are sprint enduros. I went to the motocross banquet, gave some awards. I gave the off-road. I'm going to challenge all of you right now. One of the very first sprint enduro is down in Millville, which is a great venue for it. A sprint enduro is where you have 3 time sections. It can down there, it'll probably be at least a motocross track, and then probably be a grass track or something, and a wood section. And you get to ride it 3 times. So you get one person leaves every 15 seconds. So and it's less crowded than a hare scramble, obviously. And then you're timed. And then you take your 2 best scores of each section. And that's how you compete with the other people of your level. We've done one in Minnesota a couple of years back up at the Cambridge track. Super successful. I think we had 375 riders or something. Motocross people, off-road people. And I'm excited for Millville because I'm hoping the motocross will show up because they'll probably kick butt on the track, obviously. But then the off-roaders can maybe kick a little butt in the woods and on the grass tracks. Mm-hmm. And if you really look at the international motorcycling, like the International 6 Days, and their time sections and their motocross track, grass tracks, motocross tracks, or wood sections, Americans have really done well in the last few years. And that's because we're doing a lot more speed events like that, off-road wise. And so we're excited. And then there's another brand new sprint enduro up in it's by Akeley. It's in Nevis that the ERX folks are doing, or Gary and his guys and his group. And I'm sure they'll do a great job. So when you have, sorry about that. You have those people putting, so we got 6 enduros and 9 hare scrambles. I don't know how many motocrosses. And let me just explain, because I've had phone calls and emails about the motocrosses. People are wondering how we're doing the scoring. And there's been a lot of talk in the last few years that they want to make sure that the state champion is the state champion. That you can't become a state champion by just riding one track or whatever. So you have to ride at least 9 events. And then you get scored on your best 9 events for the year. But we have featured events. One's in Brookston, one's I think in Cambridge, and one's in Millville. And at the featured events, those are bonus to that 9. You don't have to ride the feature events you don't want to. But pretty sure if you get to the end of the event year and you want to make sure you solidify your position, you're probably going to ride some feature events. And we're pretty excited about this change a little bit. And we're just trying to tweak it to make sure that we get the best, participants and people that win. And we want to support all the people putting events on. I mean, as you know, and many people know, a lot of people like riding down south. They stay south, or they stay north, or they stay way south, or whatever. And they get their points. And I've heard it. Oh, geez, I can kick that so-and-so's butt, but geez, I never race against them or her, But this is going to force people to maybe go to a different venue, support the track, of course, that you've supported your whole life. Don't stop that, but support other tracks and other people that are putting events on. So I think that's a good rule change. It was unanimous with the group of people that voted on it, and we brought it to the entire board, and now it's the rule. And we're excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's good to clarify that, because that is new for people. And I was actually working on the wording of that for the newsletter today also.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess I'm just going to reiterate, because it can be confusing because it's new. You have to race 9 regular season races. So that's any of the races aside from the featured events. You have to race 9 of them. But if you choose, you can race 1, 2, or 3, all 3 of the featured events, which are added to your previous, 9 regular season races. So you're basically getting bonus points. And the featured events are nothing new here. We've been doing them for quite a few years, but how we're contributing those featured events to the overall scoring has changed a little bit over the years. And like you had mentioned, we're just trying each year to really figure out how we can get the best champions out there, and the ones that truly deserve to be champion of the state, because like we've mentioned before, we have some of the best riding, in the country and best competition. So it's really important to us.
We do, and the featured events are varied. I mean, yeah, obviously Spring Creek. Some people love Spring Creek. Some people are like, oh man, this is a tough track. I mean, it's a pro level track. Okay. And then you got Brookstown, or you got Cambridge. All the terrain is different in each one too. So if you want to be state champ, you're going to have some diversity. You're going to have to be able to really know your bike, know how to set up, know how to pay attention to conditions, and get out there and get it done.
Mm-hmm. So, absolutely. Yeah. So just making everything, try to make everything better each year here.
Yeah. And so that's, when you asked me at the beginning, Jackie, about, some of the goals, another big goal is to continue on with the really great things that Mike Quinn's leadership have done over the years. I will never diminish anything that Mike has done over the years. He's a great, great guy. Held together things. Mike and I talk pretty regularly. He's always there for help if I have some questions. And so that's another goal of mine. I am not here to make massive changes. Let's just tweak and make it a little better here and there, and grow it that way, and just make it better. And it's encouraging because the district, you've been to every district meeting. I mean, we banter and we have fun, but we get a lot done. Mm-hmm. We're pretty organized.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rex, in conclusion, I would like you to give our listeners here one piece of advice.
Well, since I was in the racing world and now I'm in the more having fun world, I remember riding Huntersville Enduro when I was 25 or 30 years old, and just head down racing as hard as I could. And then a few years back, I rode Huntersville and I thought, wow, this is pretty nice land. I'm like enjoying this now. So while you're in it, enjoy it. And time goes so fast. I mean, you're 18 years old. Next thing you know, you're 25. And then next thing you know, you're 30. And you're like, gosh, I wish I would have did this. No, don't do any of that. Wish I would have done that. Have fun while you're doing it. And be part of the entire association. There's good people. I went to the motocross banquet, and it was a huge amount of people, and people were just awesome and fun to talk to and care. And same with the off-road and same with the dirt track. I didn't make the hill climb. I will make the hill climb banquet next year. So enjoy it. I know you want to win races and you want to have that, but man, nothing's better than the good feeling of having a little fun and caring about people. You got to care about you might be just racing or whatever against someone that you just want to beat so bad, making you better, by the way. And but at the end of the day, you shake them, give them a hug, and say congratulations, or hey, thank you for congratulating me, or whatever. It goes both ways. So, and D23 ARMCA, we are on a great path. We're healthy in every respect, and it's just I'm honored to be the chairman of this district.
Absolutely. Well, Rex, thank you so much. This will be a good one for people to listen to.
Thanks, Jackie. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate all you do for the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody else, for joining us. We will see you in 2 Mondays. But hey, before we go, thank you to 2 of our latest sponsors in 2022, Brimbenders Raceway and The Shed Shop. We'll see you in 2 Mondays. Thanks for joining us. Catch us every other Monday wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on our YouTube page.